Hello and welcome to everyone out there. Thanks for watching, really appreciate it. My name is Ice, and with me as always is Dixon. How are you?
Ice, great to hear you. Really a booming hello to start us off. I really love that. Thanks for being so enthusiastic. This is great.
Yeah, no, I do appreciate, because we're getting more viewers now. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We are growing exponentially. If there's any small-time YouTubers out there, you know what it's like when you get an influx of views. It's nice. It's really nice. I mean, it shows our hard work really pays off, and I think our dynamic is good too. I don't know. That's just me. I'm kind of patting ourselves on the back, but
yeah, it's well deserved from our perspective.
Yeah, from our side of the aisle, we deserve this. That's just how it is.
Yes.
But if anyone's watched this for the first time, we've been doing this for a year now. There's a huge catalog of stuff that we have, so you could go back. I'd be interested to listen to our first episode and see like what it was like. We probably sound exactly the same.
Yeah, I don't know. It seems we've always had the same timbre, and also the same kind of back and forth. I think. I think we're a little bit more focused now, which is good. Maybe we are. I don't know.
Yeah.
We always kind of like to talk about what we like, which I think it translates well.
Yeah, no, and I think going back to like the first episode, we really did. It was kind of just like we just talked about anything that we wanted. It was we had topics, but I think we went on for like a half hour about stuff that was like tangential to the topic at hand that we titled it for.
And I remember you were getting stressed about that because you're like, oh my God, all we are is two dudes. There's a million two dudes out there.
I know. I mean, when you really dive into this, there's a lot going on. I mean, I don't know. You have to look at the audience retention rates and things like that. There's a lot of statistics behind
a little shop talk. All right, I like it.
Yeah, a little shop talk. But I mean, what we're gonna talk about today, what the title infers that we're gonna talk about today, is Meltaway, a tribute to Brian Wilson. Now, as we all know, Brian Wilson is a big favorite of Dixon over here.
Yes.
He loves them, absolutely loves them. And I think if you go back to that episode where we talked about Brian Wilson, I definitely do respect Brian Wilson. He might not make the kind of, I guess, music that I typically listen to, but respecting him as an artist, as a producer, I truly do.
You really, and I appreciate that, because you have to look at, we talked about Smile, and I could talk about Smile for a week and a half, but you as a producer, you have to recognize the fact that what he was trying to do wasn't even possible back then. He was literally taping reels of tape together to layer tracks, things like that. So from a purely production standpoint, like you said, I'm glad that you see the value in what he's done, what he's doing, and that kind of thing.
And that's absolutely amazing. I remember we talked about that. It's like, and I said this before, I could sit down, I could go to a computer, I could go to Fruity Loops or whatever DAW that you have, and you could fire it up. I could drag and drop a waveform in there. I could drag and drop a song in there. I could edit it. I could mess with instrument recordings. I could do anything super, super easily. The fact that Brian Wilson was over there doing this in an analog sense is like, I don't know, that's like amazing to me. I think that's a really complex and probably very hard thing, probably really frustrating at first too when you're first learning, but to be able to do that and make it all work, it's really impressive.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it's you hate to use the cliche ahead of your time. That was one of the instances that was completely ahead of its time. And from a mechanical standpoint, from a musical standpoint, the whole thing, it kind of just set him off the deep end. There we are.
The poor guy. But I mean, he's certainly a legend. So I could understand why the band, She and Him, would make a tribute to Brian Wilson. Like, it makes sense.
Now, before we dive into this, She and Him, what do you know about She and Him?
Now, I will say this: I know absolutely nothing about She and Him, other than that the she of the She and Him is Zooey Deschanel.
Yes.
Who I'm a fan of. I always thought she was quite attractive. She's got something about her. I don't know what it is. Maybe well, we won't get into it, but I look at her. I look at her and she's
the big bowl full eyes, just a big bowl of fruit sitting on your countertop.
That's a great way to put big bowl of fruit. But yeah, no, she's a cute girl, and I think I like that in that she's not like, I guess, like conventionally hot.
Right.
She's
Right.
very cute. I don't know.
Yes,
That's
definitely.
that's what I would say about her.
Absolutely. Yeah, so and Zoe, I was a big fan of her work on New Girl, and it's on Netflix. I've been
Oh my
watching. I
god.
go in cycles, and I watched like Seinfeld for like 6 months, and now I've been on a
Mhm.
New Girl kick for like the last 3 months.
That I got to tell you, I've seen probably 3 seasons of that. That's a fantastic show.
It's funny, and I thought to myself, why did I stop watching this? And there was an episode there that might have been a little bit, it was 2016 era kind of thing.
Oh,
And then I
oh.
watched the full episode, and it was actually pretty good. It really wasn't overtly anything. It was all you could ask for in terms of a modern media portrayal of a Hillary Clinton Trump election.
Now,
Um,
now, when you say the 2016 era, was it something that you didn't agree with, or
it was
well,
just the idea that it was.
we don't have to dive into it if you don't want to. But
No, it wasn't. It wasn't anything. The message is good because Zooey Deschanel's character, Jess and Cece, are going to campaign for Hillary Clinton.
yeah,
And as soon as I heard this, I'm like, okay, well, this is overtly anti-Trump,
sure.
and it has nothing to do with. I'm like, yeah, absolutely, this is great. This is what it's all about: getting people in the democratic process, right? Getting
Mhm.
people motivated to vote, not by mail, but like getting them out there to protest, things like this, right?
Yes.
So I'm like, okay, that's perfect, that's fine. And then I thought, okay, well, this is going to be overtly anti-Trump. But I was in a different mind frame then. I was like,
Yeah.
I had just taken the R pill, and I was like, oh God, this is it. The media's against us. This is over. And then it
Yep.
kind of evolved into different viewpoints. But no, it really wasn't. It was a pretty balanced episode. So I've been watching that on repeat for a while. There's an episode of New Girl where she's in LAX, and I guess there's a scene from a Christmas movie or something where they play "God Only Knows" by the Beach Boys.
Oh, really?
Yes, so I think it's called. I don't know if it's Love Actually or something. I don't know. It's one of those like romantic Christmas movie things.
Mhm.
I have no idea. And in that scene, after they had mentioned that in the episode, Zooey Deschanel's version of "God Only Knows" plays in the background of the episode. And I'm thinking, boy, what a great version.
Yeah.
What a great version. So I looked it up, and I found out that they had I don't know if I've been on the loop for long enough or what, but they had released this tribute. Now, Zooey Deschanel and M. Ward have been heavy on Beach Boys stuff throughout their career. Zooey Deschanel, with some of her solo stuff that she's released, and as well as she and him, they've covered Beach Boys Christmas songs, different covers of Beach Boys stuff throughout the couple albums they've had. Now, Zooey Deschanel, we know about her. we know
Yeah. We know of her.
Yes, she has a very distinct voice. M. Ward is
Absolutely.
kind of like a really heavy on the production side, and really kind of like one of those folk artists of the early 2000s. Are you familiar with Bright Eyes? You know Bright Eyes, Connor Oberst?
No, I'm not. I'm sorry.
All right. If everybody kind of knows Bright Eyes, but that's all right. That's all right.
Except you.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. If you were an understood Bright Eyes, if you knew Bright Eyes, you probably knew M. Ward. But M. Ward was sort of a contemporary of Bright Eyes, and M. Ward has done on his solo stuff. He's done sort of folk twists and songwriting twists and different production twists on some early American rock and roll stuff. So he has a really varied career. He's gotten into more of a peppier side the last couple of albums he's had. But I've been a fan of M. Ward, and I really like she and him's work together because it's not like it's campy. It's sunshine, but it's not like, I don't know, in your face. It's not disgust. They're not angling for a pop DJ kind of thing. You're like, all right, we like this stuff. We're going to do it. And you could tell.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And if I could touch on Zoe for a second, as far as singing this kind of music, this kind of era music, she was like perfect. You know, like her voice is perfect. Even her look, really, she looks like she's out of this era, kind of.
Yes.
And I could understand why she likes it so much. And yeah, her voice, the way that she sings, her inflections, everything like that. Her vocals are just, I feel, spot on for what they're doing with this band. And that's another thing. You were talking about M. Ward and how he's like really heavy on the production side. And I have to say the production of this album, Meltaway, is like, I think it's fantastic. I really do. And I was the guitar riffs are fantastic. The way everything's put together, how everything's mixed, everything's mastered. It was
Mm-hmm.
it was really spot on. I have something to say about his vocals, but we could get into it once we start talking about the album.
Right.
But yeah, and maybe you're on the same page with me, but yeah, no, she and him have been making music. I looked it up. They've been making music since 2008, so they've been
Yeah.
into this for a little while then.
And they're one of those bands that I follow without really following them. Like I'm like, oh, look, they have a new album, I'll pick it up, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. And I kind of lost track of them for a while, and I just kind of went off the board for whatever reason. And I kind of got me back in their catalog. But they're very West Coast. They're very, M Ward is from I think Portland or Seattle. They have like that kind of like a real kind of the West Coast vibe, but also kind of like almost like a little bit of tinge of grunge when it comes to some of the vocals and the guitar stuff.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I totally feel that, especially in the guitars.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah, I thought that I don't know. I guess we could talk about Meltaway, but
before we get into the album itself,
yeah, sure.
One small criticism I have of Zooey Deschanel.
Okay, let's hear it.
She broke the heart of Ben Gibbard from Death Cab for Cutie.
No way.
And yes, they were married for a while. They got divorced. I think she initiated the divorce, and then he deleted his Instagram for a while.
Well, I mean that's hard. I mean, Zoey breaks up with you. That's rough.
Yeah, and so Ben Gibbard is already a fragile human being the way it is for his entire life in Death Cab for Cutie.
Yeah,
so I'll never forgive her for that. But it sounds like he's moved on.
I mean, well, that's good. How long? You know how long they were married for?
Quite a while, a couple of years at least, 5 or 6 years, I think.
Oh wow, okay. So this is more than like a fleeting like
this is
MGK and Megan Fox being together. Like that's probably gonna end in like a year. But so they were together for a decent long time. Okay, I didn't know that, but yeah, that's kind of heartbreaking. I really wonder what happened between them. And there's no. Let me ask you this before we get into it. There's no connection between M. Ward and Zoey romantically, right?
All of us,
or are you wondering?
All of us would love to see that.
Yeah.
Would love to see them. I really don't know. I haven't really delved into that much. I think M. Ward is. I really don't know anything about his personal life. I think he's kind of one of those guys that's kind of closed off. But yeah.
I was just gonna say what's interesting with the dynamic when you have a girl and a guy singing these sometimes intimate songs together.
Right.
I sometimes wonder how it's. If you're both single, I wonder, it's probably hard to not really get, I mean, you're traveling together constantly. You probably know each other better than you know your significant others if you're traveling and touring all the time. I don't know. That's just a little tangent there, but I think, I don't know. I could see it. I'm just saying I could see it happening.
Yeah, I could see it happening too. And it's especially there, it's like you said, you spend so much time with somebody. It's like, you get to know them better than everybody else,
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, I'm looking through, I'm searching through his Wikipedia. There's no mention of a wife, no mention of a marriage, nothing like that. So
to go off on this, you notice, I think, and I've experienced this, and I'm sure you've experienced this too, is when you're in a situation where you're not looking, where you're focused on the task at hand. As if you approach somebody that you want to date, your dynamic and your personality is going to be a little bit different. Mm-hmm. And the personality and the dynamic in your daily life that's probably maybe unpolished, I think ends up being attractive to a lot of people. So it's interesting that something hasn't developed there, and maybe it has. Maybe everyone broke them up. He's a home wrecker.
Yeah, you might be. We don't know.
You heard it here first, everybody.
Yeah, we're diving deep on this. A 4-part series of us looking into
it. What does Ben say now?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe we'll hit him up. Maybe we'll message him. Hey, Ben, come on the show. We'll talk about it.
That's exactly what he wants. The guy's already damaged the way it is. Like I said.
Oh, poor guy. Oh my god.
So now I guess we got some actual music to talk about.
Yeah. I mean, just to give my overall impressions of what I thought about this. Again, it's not the kind of music that I would normally listen to, but I feel like she and him, I feel like they did a really good job with these covers of Brian Wilson. And again, it sounds like you said before, it's not in your face like a gross recreation or reimagining of Brian Wilson's music. It just seems natural, I guess, to me. It seems organic.
Oh yeah,
I guess you could
absolutely
say.
it is. Yeah, that's a really good way to describe it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, what do you think? Like overall, do you think this pays enough tribute to Brian Wilson, or what do you think about this?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because you know, there's so many. At this point, there's so many greatest hits. There's so many collections. There's been so many different covers. Basically, you're going to have the same ones at some point. Everybody's covered. Wouldn't it be nice? Everybody's covered. God only knows.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They're out there, but that's the reason why they're covered is that they're so good. They stand the test of time. That they're a song that you wish you wrote. I think that's where a lot of this tribute stuff comes from. I love the production, and you hit the nail on the head, so to speak. Zoey's voice, the vibe, the feel, how it works together. It's very organic. It's kind of a breath of fresh air. The production is really spot on.
Yeah.
My one critique is that in reality, there's only one Brian Wilson solo song on here, and that's Meltaway. And Meltaway was from Brian Wilson's debut album in 1988, self-titled Brian Wilson. Now, that was when, I think we mentioned this on an episode, probably the beginning of our careers here.
Yeah.
He was under the care, and I'm using air quotes, of Dr. Eugene Landy at the time. And
Right.
he had a co-production credit on a lot of this stuff. Just basically feeding the guy pills to keep him just completely zonked out. And it took a legal efforts to get him released from that. So Meltaway is from that era. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's disgusting. And, I actually marked down that was one of my favorite songs on the album as well.
Yeah, Meltaway is a really good Brian Wilson song. Now that album is really good. And he has some other solo stuff that's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, like the last couple of years, he's done some compilations. He did a Gershwin album. He collaborated with Van Dyke Parks from the Smile era. So there's things they could have pulled, but I get exactly why they got these things, because these are all, besides Meltaway, these are all Beach Boys songs. Now, Till I Die is one of the few Beach Boys songs that was written exclusively by Brian Wilson and produced, and the music was written by Wilson as well, lyrics and music. So I totally get where they're coming from, and you have a pretty decent spectrum. It's really heavy in the early 70s, mid-70s of the Beach Boys, which is great because it's often ignored.
Yeah.
So I like it overall, but that's my one critique is I wish I would have seen, they could have made this 20 tracks in reality and throw in some just random stuff,
Yeah, well, I mean, why do you think they went that way? Instead of going for Brian Wilson solo stuff and calling it a tribute to Brian Wilson, why they did all these Beach Boys songs instead?
Well, that's the I hate to use, that's the bitch of it. I love that phrase. I've always wanted to use
like that. That was perfect. That was great. That's the bitch of it.
Is that Brian Wilson, for the most part, well, not for the most part, it was the creative force behind the Beach Boys, and the different eras the Beach Boys were in were kind of Brian Wilson saying, "Hey, I want to do this, or I want to try this." So, and then he got into the 70s where he was kind of really kind of removing himself from the band. He had Carl Wilson, his brother, kind of take in the leadership role. Wouldn't it be nice? Don't talk, put your head on my shoulder. All that kind of stuff. Pet Sounds era. You have to talk about Pet Sounds because that's Brian's masterpiece. It's just incredible. I get it. Till I Die. And then, like I said, basically a solo song that was released by the Beach Boys. And then you have some of that early stuff where he was kind of moving beyond, it was surfing in cars and relationships in high school still, but it was more of a refined production, another level. Good to My Baby, Please Let Me Wander.
Mm-hmm.
These are kind of those teenage love songs, but you could, if you listen to the originals, there's a higher level of production. So you really have, while these are quote Beach Boys songs, you have Brian Wilson kind of tooling around in the studio, writing lyrics with either Bruce Johnston or Mike Love in the band, and really saying, okay, well, let's try this, let's do this. So I totally get the perspective of that because, I not to discount Brian Wilson at all, but the Beach Boys were a band. Without the Beach Boys.
Yeah, well, absolutely.
Right. They were a band, Brian Wilson was 100% the leader of that band, but there was also a band around him, and it worked for him, and his production and his songs worked with that band. So there's got to be something said for that. So I don't really how I'm driving this point home, but,
No,
I get where they're coming. I get where they're coming from with these songs.
Yes, okay, I understand.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
the Brian Wilson is the overall driving force behind the Beach Boys. Of course, he was kind of,
Right.
I guess you would say, the creative leader or whatever you want to call it, and
Right.
that's
Absolutely.
how
100%.
this is a tribute to Brian
Yes.
Wilson. And
Yes.
I mean,
Especially on
I
these two. Absolutely.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And
Yeah.
he's featured on one of these songs as well.
Yes. Yes. Do it again.
Yeah. Now I want to talk about that.
Okay. All right. Let's hear.
So now, here's my critique about this, and it's M Ward.
It. Yes.
Now I said Zoey has a perfect voice for this. I think she's fantastic literally on every single track. I think now, I mean, who am I to say, because I mean, I can't sing worth a shit, but
right.
But M Ward's vocals I think they're just kind of weak in some songs.
No, I hear you. I understand that.
And I mean, I was kind of disappointed. I don't know. I really hate to say this because I did like this album overall, and I think M Ward does a great job with the guitar licks are fantastic.
Yeah,
and
they really are.
the production of the whole thing is great, and he does all that on this. But I think just when it comes to the vocals on some of these songs, it was disappointing. And what's interesting is that on Do It Again, I was like, wow. I'm like, oh, his voice is actually pretty good, and then it turns out it's not him, it's Brian Wilson.
That's really funny. That's so funny.
I was like, oh, okay, maybe M Ward does have the chops. Like maybe he could sound good. I'm like, he sounds a little different in this song, and I had no idea. And then I went home and I looked it up, and what do you know?
That's awesome.
It's Brian Wilson. So
that's awesome. That's fantastic.
Yeah,
I mean, kind of has that grizzled, that it's kind of like, you kind of think about like Bob Dylan and Bob Dylan's voice, and I think he's got kind of that same edge on the vocal cords that Dylan has,
Yeah.
And for a lot of his solo stuff, if you listen to his solo stuff, like I think in some of his albums, he has, you don't really think twice about the voice, the way it works together. Now in this setting, like you said, you noticed it.
Sure. I think I won't go as far as clashes. I feel like it just kind of doesn't fit with Zoe's voice, which again, it makes me wonder why she went with him in the first place to start this band. I mean, maybe they were friends, or she appreciated his production value, but I don't know, maybe I'm way off the mark here. Maybe his vocals are really good, and just to me they just don't sound right. But I think
that's a good assessment, that maybe they don't fit.
Yeah,
because you're used to those high pitched vocals, you're used to different falsettos with this kind of stuff, and he just doesn't have that.
Yeah, I feel like his range is very minimal, whereas Zoe's is like, it's really all over the place, and she could sing really well. And again, like I said, from this era, it just fits. But I mean, Do It Again with Brian Wilson. I mean, he still got it. I mean, it was great. That was fantastic.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. I last time I saw Brian Wilson, I think it's gotta be pre-COVID, and it seems like it's just like there's part of Brian Wilson that's just like, I'm so sick of this, I'm done with it. They're gonna cart him on stage, and then there's the other part. It's like, I feel like I want to do this. Like I want to get back in the studio. Like that. I think it goes. It's just without that, it's who is Brian Wilson? What's his personality? What is he really accomplishing without doing something in the studio, without performing, without working with the band? I think it's just. That's how it has to. That's how Brian Wilson has to exist.
Just constantly having to perform, like, because I could understand that. I mean, it's kind of like an artist. What am I trying to say? An artist's burden, maybe.
Right. Sure.
It's
absolutely.
Like,
100%.
he probably feels like he just he has to get back into it. I mean, do you think he like struggles like going back and forth with that? Like he wants to do it, he doesn't. I don't know.
Well, aren't you glad you asked? Because there's a few documentaries of the later years of Brian Wilson, and with like the Smile sessions when they re-recorded. I shouldn't say re-recorded, because that was like really the first recording. When they recorded Smile in 2004 with his band, he was disinterested. He's like, I don't know. Like he's there, he's yawning. He's like, whatever. This is kind of boring. And I think it was with a project like that. It's like, I've been there, done that. I don't want to hear it anymore. I don't want to see it anymore. And then he kind of got into it. He's like, we got to finish this.
And then he pushed through.
Right. And then now he just had an album come out, I guess, like last year, maybe a year before. It's just all piano covers of his solo stuff and Beach Boy stuff. It's called At My Piano, which I have to. Yeah,
that sounds
cool.
interesting.
Yeah, and so I think there's definitely, like you said, that artist burden there, and I think he wants to do it, and I'm sure there's 25 people around him saying, "All right, Brian, one more time, let's do it."
Oh yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sure there are. I'm sure there's a lot of people forcing him to
yeah.
do things he
So
probably doesn't want to. But yeah, that's
yeah,
man, that's it's almost like kind of sad and like you know
yeah.
tragic yeah.
There's different ways to look at that, and it's funny because once again, you could talk about this. I could talk about this for weeks. There's a longtime member of Brian Wilson's band, Jeffrey Foskett, was a member of the Smile Sessions band and toured with Brian. And that band at the time, it's kind of changed, but Paul McCartney said they're the best band in the world behind him.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they're definitely really just quality musicians.
That's
Jeffrey
something coming
Foskett,
from him.
Yeah, it is. Jeffrey Foskett actually ended up leaving the band because, from what I read, he was kind of like basically like almost like a caretaker, not in the literal sense, but like the day-to-day manager of Brian Wilson's life.
Wow.
Not we're not saying like I said physically, but like just so involved on the day-to-day that I think it just became too much from a creative standpoint.
Jeez, that's
Yeah,
that's really something. I mean, like some of the drama, with these bands is like,
yeah, it is.
You never think about it. You never think that because when they're up there
No.
performing or they're making music, and they're making great stuff.
Yes.
It's hard to picture anything is wrong in the studio while they're doing this stuff.
Right. That's such a profound point because like how could anything be bad in your life when you're making these great things? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's the truth.
It's almost like how people on Facebook like they post like these pictures, they're going they're traveling and like it's a couple and like they're always smiling and everything, but then behind the scenes it's a really bad relationship. It's kind of like that, I guess. You only see their greatest productions, and then you don't see what's going on behind the scenes.
That's the truth. It really is, and you know what? And that's what I'm fortunate to say. That you as a collaborator, what you get as what we're releasing to the public is the same. You can walk into any place that we are, and you'll probably hear the same conversation and the same topics and the same things discussed, maybe on a more personal level, but still it'd be the same dynamic and banter. And for that, I'm grateful.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, that is true.
Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah.
What you're getting with us is what we are in public. You can walk up to us and we're probably having the same banter conversation like we are now. It's we're not hiding anything, folks.
No, just our faces and our names. And our
yeah, just that. Maybe I always said one day when we get big and super rich, we'll have a podcast studio. And then maybe we'll show our dumb faces, lose half of our audience. And then continue on from there. Oh, wow, they look like that.
yeah, exactly. Oh, fuck this.
Oh, wow.
Window closes, it's over.
Yeah,
but
done.
Yeah. I will say this, though. Our nicknames have been long-standing. They aren't names that we invented overnight. They were personas, if you will. So you definitely know us. You just don't know us.
Yeah. I think they really do get the raw, uncut version of us.
Yeah, we even talk about BTS stuff on the show too. So it works out.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, hey, one more thing before we move on, Dixon. I want to talk about this, and it was a very interesting song. Heads you win, tails I lose.
Oh, interesting stuff. Wow, I'm glad you brought that up.
I loved it because you know that I mess around in FL Studio. Well, there's a plugin on there called Vocodex, and it's like it's a voice vocoder, and I'm like, wow, this is exactly the singing. It sounds exactly like what I would sound like through that plugin, which was really interesting. First of all, this is probably one of my favorite songs on the album too. Is the vocoder that they have over it, and just like ripping on that guitar, like it's really fast, like it's really punchy. And I just love that. It was easily one of my favorite songs. But I guess the question I have is, I haven't heard the original of this. Is the original anything like this, or is it like a 1-to-1 recreation? Do they use that vocoder effect, or what's going on there?
He was doing that thing like it was a different. He was trying. This was on the first album, Surfing Safari.
Mm-hmm.
The Beach Boys had. So they had a very kind of traditional I guess you could say traditional surf rock kind of pattern.
Yeah.
The original has a different pattern as far as the lyrics go and what he was putting on with the background track. So yes, there is a difference in the tempo,
Okay.
the timing.
Hmm.
Definitely on the same plane. And that was kind of, I think, Brian's first thing, saying, okay, well, what can we do with production? That's when they first start. He first, like, come Pet Sounds. He was like, okay, I'm gonna the instrument. The studio's an instrument,
Uh-huh.
And I think he first started getting into that idea with that song. That's on the first album. So yeah, there's definitely, like, I think, and that's a really good point you bring up. I think that one of the reasons why they chose that song is because of the production value on the back end when it was their first release, for the public. So it's kind of cool. But look, check it out. I think you'll enjoy it.
Yeah, that's really. I'm actually just. I was looking at the composition on the wiki
Yeah.
page right here, and
Uh-huh.
it said like it was like AABA form, and the
Okay.
A
Right.
sections were
Gotcha.
typical doo-wop chord patterns, split in
Right.
half, then repeated. Then the B section is more traditional pattern, much like
There you
other
go.
songs from Serpent Safari. See, like just the fact that they do stuff like that, like that's really interesting. That's really interesting production that you wouldn't get from like a typical band. I feel nowadays.
Yeah, sure. And who would think to, like, say, like, hey, well, let's try this. Like, I guess
Yeah.
that's why they're doing that. You know what I mean? Because I wouldn't
Yeah.
I would think of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Amazing.
that's really, yeah. It said it resulted from an effort to turn contemporary expression into songs. It's
I
pretty
like
deep
that.
there. I like that.
It is pretty deep. If I recall correctly, it was Gary. I think Gary Usher wrote that song with Brian Wilson.
Yep, you are absolutely correct.
Yeah. So
I have it
okay,
right
Gary.
here.
Yeah, Gary Usher was sort of this. It was interesting because it's interesting to think that Gary Usher was on that song, because Gary Usher was like the surf rock guy. Like, he wrote songs for Dick Dale, he wrote songs for Jan and Dean, the Beach Boys. Then he kind of mellowed out after that, but like, he was the surf guy. So
Yeah,
from a lyric standpoint, he probably had an idea in his head of what it was going to sound like, and then from a production standpoint, all right, let's do something different.
that's awesome.
Yeah,
That's really
definitely
cool.
cool.
Yeah, yeah. I liked that one. That was probably my favorite, and I also really enjoyed This Whole World.
Oh, This Whole World, one of my favorites.
Yeah, the chorus or the breakdown or whatever you want to call it. I love that how they do like the doo-wop kind of thing
Yes,
where
yes,
they were singing.
absolutely.
I was like this perfectly encapsulates like the time era where this is from, and I
And
don't know,
that's on
it's
the
real.
original too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's just a really fun
yeah.
song. Yeah, that so those two were probably my favorites off this one.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that you really um, kind of had a good experience listening to this.
Yeah, no, I really did. I wish I wasn't so autistic that like I can't bring myself into other genres of music. Maybe you might slowly be turning me though. I feel like
I hope
let's
so.
let's go back, Dixon. A year ago, do you think I would have said this about this thing, or you were thinking,
No,
I don't like this? Or something
no, I think no. 'Cause
like-
I remember when you heard what was the first album you listened to on the show? It was Dark Side of the Moon,
oh,
and
by
it
the
yeah,
yes,
by Pink Floyd.
yeah.
Yeah, and I remember you're like, oh my god, this is nuts, man. Like, this is wild.
Yeah,
And it was funny
I was
because,
super
like,
into that. I love that album.
it was so funny because, like, it's just, and not this isn't this isn't a judgment call or anything, but
Here we
like, you can
go.
get when I was like 16 years old, if any of my friends who got into their car, they had that, either that CD or that cassette tape, like, there for decades. Like, they got it from their dad, and they've been listening to it too, and it's like, oh, okay, this is just on,
Yeah, yeah.
it was such a great thing to be able to share that with you, or share that with someone who wasn't familiar with that. That's what I'm really happy about.
That's cool. That's awesome.
You know?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, music really is to be shared too. So I think
it
that's
is.
yeah, that's a really good thing. And I really do appreciate you bringing this stuff to me because it's stuff I would have never listened to otherwise.
Yeah, no, I'm glad, I'm happy to do it. You think about, like, TikTok, like, Fleetwood Mac is having like a moment right now,
Yeah.
and it's so funny because, like, you'll go in. Well, I don't know about you, but I've been in bars, and they'll be playing Fleetwood Mac, like one of the sing along songs on the jukebox,
Oh yeah.
and you have some, like, wispy woman, like some, like, 24-year-old with short hair, just, like, absolutely
Yeah.
belting it out, and I'm like, this. I've heard this. Like, for at least, like, the last, like, 25 years of my life. Like, it's been,
Yeah.
I've been on the radio. I've been on the things I listen to. My parents have played it. Like, I've heard this song, and it's not a song that I would think, like, okay, I'm gonna put it on the bar and really sing it out loud with my friends. Like, it's not one of my good time
Right.
ideas of a
But
song. But people are just getting turned on to it, which I think is pretty cool.
I know it's awesome. My fiance is actually a huge Fleetwood Mac fan.
Oh,
I
since
think.
when?
I think she saw them. I can't remember
That's
what
awesome.
their. It was it wasn't like I don't think it was like out of nowhere really.
Yeah,
I think it
2020 or something like that. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, no,
Because
I
it's
don't.
funny. Yeah,
Yeah, no, I don't think it was like she just like, oh, this is popular now and I liked it. I think, I mean,
very cool.
I could be wrong on that. She could just be following the trend, but I don't know.
It's funny because like 2013, like 20, no, maybe even before that, like 2009
Hmm.
to like 2013 era when I was in college.
Yeah.
There was a girl that I'd worked on a newspaper with, no big deal, and
Oh, excuse me.
and she was like obsessed with Stevie Nicks and Fleetwood Mac back then, and she was like all into it. I remember thinking this is kind of a little bit weird, like it's a little bit weird. And now you have like I don't know a
Yeah.
million girls that are just like that. But she was definitely ahead of the curve. Like, shout out to you for really setting the trends here. 10 years later,
Yeah. Yeah,
but
good for
it
her.
all works out. Yeah, so
Yeah,
it's
that's
cool though. I mean, that's cool. I mean, everybody's getting into their own thing. They're finding new stuff. I mean, let's think for ourselves. Let's think outside the box. Damn it.
yeah, absolutely.
You
For
know?
God's sakes.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
I like
No,
it.
I do enjoy that people are getting into new things and like old songs like that, and that it's hitting the
Yeah.
Twitterverse and all that. So that or the I'm sorry, TikTok verse and all that. So
Yes,
that's
the
good.
TikTok verse. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'll say that I'm really proud of your significant other because everything I bring to my significant other, she's only ever heard
Oh.
for the first time. Like that, like that's it. Like it's always like, oh wow, who's this? They're like, oh, I'm like this band. Like, oh, cool. And like she like hasn't heard anything.
like that's
Like,
it.
yeah, she hasn't heard a single thing. I don't think, except for a very limited scope. So good
That's
work over
interesting.
there.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, but she has very very limited scope. She really is into that electronic dance music.
Oh yeah. I mean, we all love that.
Yeah, and country and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
I've really expanded her horizons as well, and I don't know if it's sticking just yet, but she definitely has a newfound appreciation for Elvis, and she's seen the Beach Boys and stuff with me, so it's always
Oh,
good.
awesome. That's good.
Yeah,
Good
so
stuff.
good. Yes, sir.
So well yeah. uh hey, Christmas is coming up.
Oh my gosh, I'm
Yeah.
nervous.
Yeah, maybe I'll get you one of these albums or something. Maybe
Oh my
maybe I'll
gosh.
buy a Meltaway if I see it in the store.
By the way, I have to pick that. I think I have to pick up that album.
Yeah, I
From
know.
Record Store Day.
I have it laying flat down on under a pile of books. Is that okay? I just kidding. I just kidding.
Oh man, you cracked me up because we collaborated in person the last couple weeks, and I totally
Yeah.
forgot about it.
Yeah, no, yeah, if anyone doesn't know, I went for Record Store Day, Black Friday edition, and I picked up a nice Brian Wilson album for Dixon.
Yes,
Because it wasn't in your area.
was not in the area that I currently live in, unfortunately. So you really did me a solid there, because I definitely
No
needed
problem. No problem.
it. But speaking of gifts,
Yes.
I think I have a piece of advice. You have a piece of advice. You've been a proponent of this concept as well.
Yeah, 100%. I know what you're going to
If you
say.
if you think about getting somebody a gift, number one, don't.
Yes.
Number two, liquidate your gifts.
Liquidate your gifts. One day we're putting this on some merch, and the saying is going on some merch. But liquidate your gifts, because listen, folks, everyone out there, we got to listen right now. Everyone out there, we're all working. We all need money, right?
Yes, yes.
So if you're going to spend a lot of money on something that you don't know if they really want, then just take what you're going to spend, throw that cash in a card, and give it to them. I'm sure they would love to open up an envelope with a nice hefty chunk of cash.
Absolutely.
Rather than something that they may or may not want. And that's really what it really comes down to. And I don't know about you, Dixon, but I don't need any more crap. I have enough crap in my house to begin with. I don't even know where to put all this stuff. I'm almost embarrassed about how much junk I have.
I know we are the kings of crap. I'm the same way. I have anything I want, I go out and buy anyway. And I really haven't bought all that much in the last year. But like anything, like I'll seek out, I'll get it. Like I trust me, I will get what I want.
Yeah, well, I mean, see, that's another good. That's another good point. We're old enough now and we have jobs where we could just go out and buy what we want or need. It's like, oh, hey, I want that. like you were saying, you want that CD player or that like stereo
Yeah.
system. Oh, okay, I'm gonna go buy it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's nothing I would have to. If someone asked me what physical item do you want, I'd really have to think about that. And my answer would be nothing. I don't know. I really have everything that I need. I mean,
Right, exactly. I probably would say the same thing too. It's like, of course, there's some things that you want to, but I know that whenever I was asked, "What do you want?" I'm like, I don't know. I have no idea.
yeah,
I don't think I want anything. You know.
yeah. No, every single time. I don't. I just don't need. I don't need more stuff. I need more cash. That's what I
Yes,
need.
exactly. We need bags and bags of cash.
Yeah.
And there's 2 points about this that I was thinking about when we were talking about this, because the biggest thing, and I mentioned this before on the show, is that my significant other's parents are big gift givers. Now they're good gift givers for the most part, you know, and her brother and everything else, they're always very good gift givers. However, once again, it's kind of just good.
I was gonna say that's a tough thing to do. It really is, to be a good gift giver. You really got to know someone. You got to know what they like, ins and outs of all that. It's tough.
It is, and they're all things that I've enjoyed, but some of them are like, I don't know, like my favorite college football team, a laundry basket with their logo. Do I want that? Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Do I need that? Not really. Would I go out and get it? Probably not. But now I have
Right.
it.
Yes, exactly. This is what I'm saying.
Yeah. So I was like, all right, great, awesome. But it's like, if they took that $25 worth and just gave it to me in a car, it'd be better. So for the first year ever, as a result of this show, her parents are eliminating the gifts. They're liquidating the gifts and transitioning to cash. Yes, correct.
No way.
Yes.
So you put this to practice.
Yes, 100%. That's exactly what my SO has been saying.
Amazing.
She said, you know, Dixon says liquidate your gifts, and sure enough, they're liquidating their gifts.
This is amazing. This is fantastic.
Yeah. So going along with that, I wonder if how the liquidation is going to reflect in terms of dollars worth to gifts. Like in my mind, what I would have done if we're going to do a liquidation like this, we're going to be serious about it. All right, well, how many dollars did I spend last Christmas? All right, maybe throw in 25 extra, maybe not, maybe keep it the same, maybe go down. But that's one thing I'm concerned, because kind of a gray area, a new thing for everybody. Because
I love this.
It'll be interesting to see. Now, the other thing that I noticed, and we're talking about crap and gifts and just nonsense, right?
Yeah.
You and I, we've been to a lot of weddings this past year.
Yeah, we have.
Yes, fortunately, unfortunately, whatever you want to say.
However you want to look at it. I mean, I can look at it both ways, but yeah.
Yes. I've only ever given cash as gifts for wedding presents. I've never gone to a registry and ordered something or picked something out. However, I've had the opportunity. I was looking at what the registries look like, things people will register for and want. And I don't know if it's just the people that the weddings that we went to, like those couples, but these registries are absolutely awful. It's like 4 wine glasses for $12. Man, go out there and buy your own wine glasses.
What?
Yeah, a pack of stainless steel straws. Come on now,
get out of here.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what was the other thing? And then it'll be like or something ridiculous, like I don't even know, a Vitamix blender for $550. It's like it's just. Once again, do you not own anything?
Yeah.
Number 2, do you not live by a Marshalls or a Dollar Tree? Or
Can you not?
Get wine glasses. And so it's like, okay, my whatever. God. But I will say this. I was really impressed. The girl I dated previously, about 10, 13 years ago. Mm-hmm. She had recently gotten married. I'd found out about this.
Oh wow!
So I did a little bit of digging, just to see what this guy's all about. Make sure he give him the stamp of approval.
Sure. Of course, he needs that, right?
Yeah. So I looked on their registry, and I was so impressed because I never thought she was capable of something like this. A cash-only registry for a honeymoon fund.
I'm so glad that you brought this up, because that was going to be my next question. Is
right.
What do you think about that?
Now here's my question, because that's what I would do, and I would say let's get the honeymoon fund, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
However, I take the big bundle of honeymoon fund and do whatever the hell I want with it. Not going on honeymoon.
Like,
And now
yeah.
now is there a legal
Wow.
component to this?
Well, no, well,
Is there assumption of guilt? What is it?
I don't see. Here's the thing. You are.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like a GoFundMe kind of thing. Like people
Right.
could say stuff like that, but I don't. They have no legal obligation to. Like if they're asking for money for something, I don't
Right.
think they have any legal obligation to take those donations and spend it
Right.
on what they say they're going to do. And that's sometimes the problem with a lot of these. Sometimes a lot of people get scammed and they just want the money. So like they make up some
Right.
kind of big fraud and say, "Oh, I need the money cuz whatever, a huge emergency or family tragedy, whatever." And then they
Right.
just take the money. So
Right.
I mean, but that's different than like just taking it for a honeymoon and then just going. But now I will tell you one thing. I will tell you one thing
Yes.
here.
Yes.
The boomer generation, okay?
Right. Okay.
When they could go on a honeymoon to Hawaii for like $100, they
Yeah, right.
they I've talked to some people and they hate the idea of giving money for a honeymoon fund. They do not like
No
it.
kidding.
They think
Really?
they think it's shameful. And which I don't understand. See, this is the thing. You're giving them money. You're giving them
Right.
items that cost money anyway. What if they don't
Right.
want any of that stuff and they just want money towards their honeymoon
Yes,
to recoup the, because
absolutely.
like I mean because those are friggin' expensive.
You better believe it.
I mean, I don't see an issue with it, and it's not like you're paying for the entire honeymoon. Like you chip in some money, and that's all you got to do.
Right.
From my perspective, just knowing how things are expensive now, I don't see an issue with that. So
No,
I
100%.
would be proud of her as well, Dixon. I really would.
Yeah, that was a good move. And like you said, like it doesn't. Who cares? You know what I mean?
Yes.
How easy it is on you to get some cash put in a card, and that's what
Right.
from the cash perspective. I remember going to weddings. My dad would say to me, "All right, cover the plate and then a gift as well." So these gifts can be a few $100s.
Oh,
in
yeah.
reality. So it's not surprising to me because I've recently become engaged as well, just like you. We're both in the
Oh, yeah.
engagement club,
We're doing big things.
and people were asking me about what the plans are, and the rough plan is basically you're not invited to the ceremony. It's like,
Yeah.
we're gonna have a party at a later date, and
Yeah.
it's cash only. And everyone's like, "Well, how are you going to ask for cash only?" I'm like, "Easy, I'm going to ask for cash only."
Yeah.
And then I remember,
Easy. Yeah.
yeah, and I remember. So when this was first announced, the day of the engagement to my fiance's parents,
Oh boy.
like they're like, "Oh wow," I'm like, "Oh okay." Like I said basically a honeymoon fund, but we're not going to take a honeymoon. Like we'll take a trip where we want to go when we want to go.
Sure.
Like oh, and it was like such a foreign concept that you could actually just ask people for money.
Yeah. Which is
Yeah.
it's crazy to me. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't understand why it's so. I'm telling you that Dixon, that generation, I just don't think they get it because
No.
I don't know if they don't. It's just not in their minds that like things don't cost money. I don't get it.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
what am I going to put on a registry? I have the friggin' I don't know. I have like a pressure cooker. I got an air fryer. I got all that stuff. I got everything I need.
You want, you have it. You got it.
Yeah, I got it. It's here.
Yeah.
I purchased them over time. So
Right. Exactly.
I'm going to ask for another one. What am I going to ask for dishware? Like to replace the ones that we already have?
Throw out our dishes so we get new dishes.
Yeah.
How does that make any sense?
I-
It doesn't make any sense.
I don't know. Here's the one thing. The one thing that the argument for this is that if you are, I don't know, if you're like living and you just have like an amalgamation of friggin' dishes and silverware, like you're living in college or something, then you would you would ask for that. But like I said, I mean, I would just pack all, like if we're gonna move somewhere, I'm just gonna pack all that stuff up and put it in the new house. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. And no, it's a brave new world out there.
Mm-hmm.
I live with my fiance. You've lived with your fiance for a while. People might say we're living in S, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
And living together, you kind of bring in stuff, and they kind of bring in stuff, and then you buy stuff. So it's like, well, if we're already living together, then what else could we possibly need after we bought it? Like you said, you got the air fryer, you got the cooker, you got everything.
Yeah, 100%. She brings stuff to the table, you bring stuff to the table. You have all the stuff.
Yeah.
You don't need any more. That's And like I was saying, we have too much junk to begin with. I don't know where to put it. It's just stuff that we've had living on our own and taking it together. Now we have double of that stuff. So
right, exactly.
I don't know. I think 100% all cash. That is that's going to be the new thing now. I think so. Like, because our generation, probably the Gen Zers or whatever, the Zoomers and everything, is probably going to move towards that.
Yeah, I think so too. I hope so anyway. And here's another thing too, just to really drive this point home.
Yeah.
Oh, no big deal. I'll get them a Visa gift card. No, not the same cash.
Yes. I don't want to have to go to friggin' Kohl's to spend it. You know.
Yes, exactly. 100%.
Yeah. Why go through the Visa? That's another thing I don't understand. I used to get Visa gift cards from, I forget who gave it to me. It was someone in my family, but they don't do that anymore. Yeah. But it's like, why? Did you have to go through that to give me just give me the cash? I don't know.
And then now I think people they're treating Amazon the same way. Like, oh, you get anything you want on Amazon. There's nothing on Amazon that I want right now.
Yeah.
You know, and I've had a $50 gift card from Amazon from my aunt, still in a drawer that I have yet to use. I haven't had the need to buy anything on Amazon yet. And here's the other thing too, is that, and I hate to bring this up, but my fiance's aunt, she gave us an engagement card. Lo and behold,
oh boy,
Visa gift card. And you know,
that's where it all comes from.
Appreciate the thought. The sentiment really counts, but it doesn't count as much as that cold hard cash.
Exactly. So full circle, liquidate your gifts, hard cash only. And and I have to say, people might come off and look at this and saying we're greedy or whatever. We're not. Right. Like, I appreciate that you're giving me anything at all, but what I'm saying is, what you give me, like, what I'm saying, what we're saying is, if you are going to give me something, money I would appreciate a lot more, is what I'm saying. If you're gonna spend that money, if you're gonna spend that money on me to buy something that I probably don't need, just give me the money. That's all I'm saying. And I would do the same to them too. I mean, that's just how it is. Right.
Exactly. I mean, you're absolutely right. If you're gonna get us something, just stick with the cash, and then we'll go from there. And you'll be hailed on this show as a hero.
Yes,
and we'll go from there.
We'll give you we'll go do a rundown of everyone that liquidated their gifts this year.
Yep.
Well, I mean, that's the bitch of it, isn't it?
I love it. That's great. What a great phrase.
Oh, I love it. I'm going to use that a lot more.
It's funny because it's always been on my radar, but now I was watching Christmas Vacation, and cousin Eddie uses that in talking to Clark Griswold about something. And I'm like, oh my god, what a great phrase! I totally forgot about that.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's great.
So, yep.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we had a lot of fun. We like. So I guess the takeaway from this episode is that "Meltaway" by She and Him is a great album. I really appreciate it. Great production. Zooey Deschanel does great. M Ward, great production. Not as good in the vocals. And Brian Wilson being on that one track is great. And also Liquidate Your Gifts. I think that's the takeaway from this whole episode.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Fast forward to this end if you just want to hear the summation of this.
Yeah.
Here you are. This is where you
are. Well, hey, I guess we'll be back next week to discuss some more things. We're going to have to do a BTS and figure out what we're going to talk about.
Love it. Looking forward to it already.
Oh, me too. Well, guys, thanks for watching. Really appreciate it. And while you're here, why don't you give us a comment? If you made it to this end, just give a comment in the bottom and just say liquidate your gifts. If you got this far, just comment liquidate your gifts below, and we'll know you got to the end.
join this movement and comment liquidate your gifts. And then you made it here. Smash that like button.
Smash that like button. Make sure to subscribe. And we will see you next week.
Peace.